And now it is my distinct pleasure to introduce the John and Lillian Miles Lewis Foundation's first presentation of its original public programming series, Good Trouble Talks. The foundation is planning to develop these inspiring, curated talks and take them on a roadshow across America, partnering with colleges, communities, local activists, and like-minded organizations. This program will spotlight individuals who have committed their work, their art, and their lives to building and crossing bridges. Drawing from lessons learned from the example of the Lewises, these talks will explore contemporary issues while discussing tools and methods needed to effect change, take direct action, and replicate outcomes. Ultimately, the Foundation's goal in hosting Good Trouble Talks is to celebrate, to educate, and motivate. And here to do just that for us tonight, please help me welcome to the stage tonight's moderator, renowned journalist and legendary civil rights activist, Charlayne Hunter-Gault, and our first Good Trouble Talker, multi-award-winning rapper, actor, and artist, Common.
Oh, this looks different from where I was out there. Well, hello, everybody. It's been such a wonderful evening so far, and I don't want to do anything to unwonderful it. So I want to first say all protocols observed, because there's so many people here who deserve to be mentioned. But then that would take up our 18 minutes, right? Yes. So thank you for that. As Linda Chastang said earlier, we chatted about this evening, and I said, well, you know, it's an amazing day, which means so much to me. And she said, oh, really? Tell me about it. I said, well, May 17th, if it wasn't for the decision of the Supreme Court on May 17th, I would not have had the education that I had. And she said, oh, really? I said, yeah, because it was Constance Baker Motley, Donald Hollowell, Horace Ward, Vernon Jordan, who's now there with John and Lillian. But they were the ones who made it possible for me to be a beneficiary of May 17th. And I'm proud of that, because it enabled me to be the first Black woman to attend the University of Georgia. No. That wasn't what I was after. It's okay, but that's not what I was after. But I think that one of the things that is important about this moment, and why it's so important to talk to people like Common and those of you in this room who've spoken before and those of you who are in attendance, if we're not careful, that's going to be reversed. Just like Roe v. Wade. And so our history is very important, even though today there are efforts to take it out of our classrooms. And that's one of the main reasons, aside from the fact that I really wanted to meet this brother. But that's one of the reasons I've come today, and why I think it's so important that all of you are here and that Common is here, because he's been so active in the things that are important to each and every one of us. So I want to begin with a little walk, or maybe two walks, down memory lane. I want to ask you, how did you first hear about John Lewis?
Well, First of all, greetings to everybody, and I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you, Charlayne. I first heard about John Lewis in elementary school. I was studying Black history, and he was mentioned, as I was reading, learning about some of the civil rights leaders. I saw his name in with several other names, like Andrew Young, of course, Dr. King. This was the Black history class that we had that was really so informative. It was like enlightening for me, and I remember coming across his name. I didn't know much about him. I got more information and learned more about John Lewis when I looked at the documentary Eyes on the Prize, and I learned a lot about him then, and I learned even more when I was blessed to meet Mr. John Lewis on the set of Selma when he came to visit.
When you were making the film.
When we were making the film Selma, and he came to visit, and he was just this beautiful soul that we met. And the lead actor playing Dr. King, David Oyelowo, was so nervous to do this speech in front of John Lewis because John Lewis knew Dr. King. Nah, I gotta try to be this. And this big speech he had in the church, and he had to try to live up to being Dr. King after John Lewis has lived that life. It was a pressure moment, but John embraced us all, and that was my introduction to him and the evolution of me getting to know Congressman Lewis.
But in order to do the film, you had to do some research, right? So
Deep
what were you
research.
expecting? What were you expecting before you met him when you did the research that got you ready to do Selma?
Well, I did a heavy amount of research and working in Selma, and that's one of the beauties I think about, to me, about being an actor is, and getting a chance to, you already study things for yourself, but it's you're getting paid to study about yourself when you study about civil rights leaders, and you get an opportunity. We had the opportunity to meet John Lewis, and I remember him coming to our lunch and just talking to us and telling us so many things. And I remember also, like, me going home at night just looking at all this documentary footage of the women and men of that time, and it just put a charge in me that let me know I had to do more. In fact, I remember it was Ambassador Andrew Young who said to us, he said he was sitting around, we were sitting at a rehearsal, and he came and sat and talked with us, and he said, "What are you willing to die for? Live for that." He said, "We were willing to die for freedom, justice, and equality, so we live for it every day." And I knew that that's what John Lewis was doing. So that Selma film itself was a gift that, sometimes you take on things, and I know a lot of us are experiencing this now. We take on things for one purpose, and you receive so many other gifts in it. And then sometimes in that, you actually giving other people gifts through it. So, I received a lot from Selma, and it's been a blessing to me to encounter all the people I did.
Do you remember any one particular thing that you took away from that first meeting with John? I've known John in various iterations, especially in our home of Atlanta. And I know that one of the things that we shared was that, like Jim Lehrer used to say, we cry at a bad commercial. So John and I would start talking about the civil rights movement and people we had lost, and the next thing I know, we were both crying. So I took that away from him, that he had a heart, and that he was able to express himself in so many wonderful ways, even his tears.
Yes.
Is there any one particular thing, though, that stands out for you that you took away from him, having met him that first time?
I think I took away from him his humanity. And I say that because he treated everyone with respect. He was open-hearted and treated us with love. We knew we were meeting one of the greatest human beings to walk the planet, somebody who had changed our world and our lives. But he treated us like we were his. And, sometimes when you're meeting these leaders and people that you see that are distinguished, you get all spiffed up and you get stiff, and you just like, you're meeting somebody that's just one of the gods. But, you know, not only was he showing me what one of the gods is, but he was showing me his humanity. He showed us his humanity. So I remember taking that because his kindness, it was like just natural. It wasn't, you know, sometimes you come across fake kindness, you know, and his was authentic, and we all kind of knew that, and it felt good for us, and it gave us that. Sometimes when you get that approval from somebody you respect so much, you get that support, or just you see them. Sometimes it's not even them just saying things, even though he said things to encourage us. It was just the example he set of his humanity that let me. That's what I walked away with. It's like, man, just a great human being. And you know, for me, it's a great inspiration to when I'm going through different phases of life, being celebrated or not celebrated, just to remember my humanity.
I got a lot of questions here, but you keep saying such profound things. It makes me forget some of the questions I've got here. And I want to follow up on some of the things that you're saying. And one of the things that we've heard from people today who've talked about John is good trouble. So when did you first hear that phrase, and what did that mean to you then? What does it mean now?
Yeah, well, I mean, he kept saying that good trouble when we were on the set. Like, he was like, man, we was getting into good trouble. He was letting us know. So that was honestly when I first heard him say it, or just really took that phrase and understood it. That's what, you know, if somebody walks with a phrase that describes what their life has been about, or one of the things their lives has been about, that was his. And what I took from that phrase at the time was like they were willing to do what it took for the good of the higher good, for the good of our people, but all people. And it was like done with no fear. And that trouble, you know, for me now, good trouble, I started to understand it as it being that as the foundation. How can you do good, do a higher good, and not be afraid? That don't mean you don't have moments of going through things where you're like, is this really gonna work, or will I lose my life for this? But how can you operate from that place where where you're willing to give all you have to do good for a higher good, and for not just for you, not even only just for your family, or not even only just for your community, but for people that you might not even know their names, but are being affected by the good trouble you get into. So I started to see it as, you know, like really a theme for me to try to live by, and something to look towards my life and say, you know, when am I just being easy and coasting and staying in that comfortable place, or when am I starting getting that spark and getting it going, that revolt that I've been born to do? Like, it's times where I need to like recharge myself and get in that space, because sometimes you get comfortable and people start, you know, celebrating you, or they liking what you're saying, and you starting to get publicity here and there. You going up the ladder, so you kind of watch what you say sometimes. But I feel like good trouble is being able to be honest and be truthful, and not afraid of the fall that may come when you're speaking the truth for a higher good. So that's what I always try to remind myself of when I hear that phrase, good trouble.
But did you get into trouble doing good trouble?
Yeah.
And tell us
I
the
got
truth
I got
about
into
it. Give me some
no, I
truth.
got into trouble doing good trouble. You know, I come from hip hop, so you know, we speak a lot of truth, and we don't hold back. We don't really do the politically correct thing that well. So I did a song about a woman named Assata Shakur, who I believe to be innocent, a Black Panther from 1973, who was accused of shooting a New Jersey state trooper, but from my observation and my instinct and my discernment, my God self, I felt like she was an innocent woman. And I did a song about her because I had read her autobiography, and it really impacted me. And I did a song about her, and it was, to expand and expose people to more of what had happened. And at some point, I did the song back in 2000, and 2000 the album came out. It was on an album called Like Water for Chocolate. Now in 2011, I was invited to the White House when President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama were having a poetry reading. And so happened, I got in good trouble because Fox News and all these people were like, Common was talking about Assata Shakur, and he shouldn't be invited to the White House. He supports these type of people. And I was like, yep, I do. Yes, I'm in that trouble. I like that trouble. And my mother was calling me because the news was reporting. She was like, the news was reporting like that the White House is allowing this vile rapper Common to come to the White House, and he's a vile rapper. And my mother called me like, they saying you vile. I was like, Ma, I ain't vile. Why are you even listening to them? And eventually I had to have even, late night hosts say, look, Jon Stewart was on TV like, you talking about Common, the dude that was on Sesame Street? He's a vile rapper? Yeah, okay. But anyway, it just showed me how when you're in the good trouble, when you enter the politics of things, you can get caught in the crossfire. You're going to sometimes get aimed at for certain reasons, but if you really down for the higher good, the good trouble, then you go stick with it and stay focused on it, and tell moms everything gonna be all right.
All right. Now, like most television, we have a limited amount of time up here, and so I want to get to a couple more things before that little clock down there runs us out of here. I want to move to your book, which I have in my hand, which I want you to autograph, but not now, we don't have time. But let love have the last word, right in line with John's advice, not to get lost in a sea of despair. We have to be hopeful. How can we be hopeful in the face of the kind of ongoing violence we're having against people of color, against the challenges to teaching history, our history? And that is growing around the country. So people who subscribe to those kinds of attitudes seem to be winning. Are they? And how do you confront that as it goes around the country, which is happening now? Every time I turn on the television, there's a new report about people asking to get rid of our history, some of our history books, and other things that have actually enabled me to be where I am today, and probably you as well. How do you keep the love? How do you keep the hope up?
I think we have to remember who we are and remember whose we are. And by that, if you know that you're a child of the Most High God, and God is in each and every one of us, it's hard to go out there and be hateful. When the people of the civil rights movement was practicing nonviolence, one of the things I loved about that movement is it has spirituality to it too. And I think within spirituality, you always have accountability, you have a foundation and a base that gives you the guidelines of who you are. And if you can return and remember that as you walk this path when you're dealing with a lot of things, because when I say let love have that last word, it's not like, love is not just flimsy, and it's not just like, oh, I'm going to just do anything and float around. Love is active. And I was reading an article that Congressman Lewis it was his last words he had written for the New York Times. And he talked about democracy being active. I feel, the same way. That's how love is active. Love is going out there and making sure that we get the right people in offices. Going out saying, oh, you all are trying to take these things away from us. we're going to identify the people that are truly supporting the right way, and we're going to fight through thick and thin to get those people into office. We're going to keep our people aware of who is involved, even in between, during the midterms, during in between those elections, keeping our people engaged, but then also going and making sure we create different things and programs, whether it's schools, whether it's nutritional things. I believe in holistic healing for our communities, that we can create some of these things and not even have to wait for an election. So I think it works from different tiers, and it's like you work through politics and get those things taken care of. That's love. It's also love to be out there saying, hey, I'm about to start this program for young people in my community where they know what nutrition is and know about nutritional eating. They know about meditation. They have access to therapy. They have, creative arts programs. That's love too. And even in the midst of all that's going on, I mean, we got to express it. I mean, the great First Lady said, Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high. So I feel like that love got to be expressed in a high way. Like when you express love, it's you drawing off your higher self. And let's face it, each and every day, we come across something that tries to draw you to your lower self. It could be on a basic level of just, we could be interacting with a loved one. We could be interacting with somebody who we don't know that's a stranger. I go through it a lot in the airports where I got to catch myself, like, security be wanting to go extra hard, just, I don't know if it's because I'm a black man, I don't know if it's because they know who I am, or either way, it might not be either one. But sometimes, TSA want to go extra hard on you, and you got to be like, humble yourself and remember who you are, and have those methods to use in your daily life to remember you God's child. And when you operate from that place, there's no way that you could be going in the wrong way expressing hate. There's no way you can do that. So for me, that's how I let love have the last word. And I also, try to listen, because love takes some listening too. Even if you don't agree with those people, even if you don't necessarily like them. I want to say this one thing, because I've been over in London for a while, and I'm happy to be home. But I noticed something when I landed in London. When I first landed out there in October, I was like, man, it's a weight off my shoulders. I felt a weight off, and I didn't know what it was, but the more I walked around and lived out there, because I've been out there for some months, I was like, I don't feel the tension I feel at home. Why do I feel so much tension at home? And it's just like, if we wasn't fighting over racism, we fighting over politics. We ain't fighting over politics, we fighting over vaccinations. We fighting over the climate change. When are we just gonna say, like, man, we can do better for ourselves, we can do better for the whole by just being like understanding, listening, coming from a place of love, and also letting our higher self rule. And so anyway, I just feel like we got it in us, and it's hard for me to be like coming home and being like, damn, people shooting, like we fighting over this, and to just go to another country and be like, oh, I can just let my hair down. I ain't got no hair, but just I can just be. I feel a little more free. I don't feel like I'm gonna get shot for doing something that just being a black man. I don't feel that. I don't feel, and I feel like I know that we got it in us over here for all that we've come through and all we've created. I just got to say that because it was on my heart.
That was really worth saying, and it takes us over time, but I'm going to ignore the fact that we are out of time and go to what I want to ask you next. Somebody might come and get me up here, but that's all right.
It's good trouble. Good trouble.
Right. I want to go to glory. Not really, but I want to go to your glory. I want to go to your glory.
Yes.
And and we are really getting a little bit behind time, but just tell me very briefly, how did the project come about, and what has it meant, the Oscar notwithstanding, what has Glory meant to you? Because we're going to hear it in a minute, and I'm sure they want to hear that. They also want to hear you explain it, but make that quick so you can get to the part they really want to hear.
Yeah. In fact, as we get into me talking about Glory, I'd like to invite my band on stage so we can get into Glory at some point. So I'll make it quick. Like I said, that Selma changed my life. Selma enlightened me in ways that I never knew it would. It gifted me. And I got to just thank Ava DuVernay for inviting me to be a part of that film. She's an incredible leader and a wonderful person, and just blessed us with the opportunity to do Selma. Now, I'm just going to give y'all a quick story about making sure you listen to God and listen to that gut feeling and following your heart. When we finished Selma, everything was done. Nobody was thinking about me or John Legend doing a song for the film. My manager and I were on a phone call, and he was like, man, are you going to do something for the film? Because I had talked about doing it, and I was like, well, what are they saying? He was like, they're not saying nothing. They're not thinking about y'all. And I said, this urge came across me because I knew I wanted to do something for the film, and I knew how much it meant to me, this experience of learning these women and men. And I said, I'm going to call you back. That urge was like, call John Legend. Tell him what you want to do, and let's do it. I called John. He happened to be in London, and he was like, I won't be back for a few weeks, but man, I explained to him this film, what it was about and everything, and he was like, I'm down. I said, listen, they ain't looking for a song from us, but let's do it. And I ended up, I hung up the phone with him. I texted him 3 titles. The third title was Glory. And he said when he saw Glory, the words came to him one day when the glory comes. And he hummed that into his phone, the melody, and started it. He sent me the melody. I heard that in his piano, and I was like, oh, it's over. I could not wait to write that. I started my writing, and then I called Ava one day while she was in editing and played her the song over the phone, like, hey, I got something for you. She heard it and was like, bring that over to the editing room. I took it to the editing room. They put it at the end of the movie. She said, this is amazing. And we had the song in the movie. Glory.
Well, I'm going to step off the stage now and let you do it. But something tells me that John and Lillian are listening, so do it good.
Yes.